All right, my friends, welcome back. Valuation of inventory. What do you think we're going to be applying here? Rule of conservatism, right? If you think you're going to sell it at a gain, we're not going to book that gain until it's actually realized, until you actually sell it at a gain. But the question is, what if you think you're going to sell it at a loss? We'll talk about the rule of conservatism here, okay? Remember, inventory sits on the balance sheet as a current asset, not expense until the product is sold. So as a general rule, inventory is on the books at what amount? On the balance sheet at cost. And remember that cost includes freight in, net of any discounts, but includes freight in. You might have just finished goods or various stages of inventory if you're a manufacturer. Okay, when do we depart from the cost basis? Precious metals. So if you go to Garrity's house in his backyard, he's got lots of precious metals, gold, silver, all that kind of stuff. That's what I got. I got farm products, agriculture. Couldn't you see me as a farmer? Come on, man. Precious metals or farm products, okay? Either one of those, you think net realizable value, which is selling price minus any cost to sell it. So the precious metals, the farm products, net realizable value, selling price minus the cost to sell. Okay, sometimes we'll use lower of cost or market. That's when you're LIFO or retail, we will use lower of cost or market. If you're FIFO or weighted average, then we're going to use lower of cost or net realizable value. So really, lower of cost or net realizable value is kind of like the general rule, FIFO weighted average. It's more of an exception when you're using the LIFO. So the lower of cost of market is just going to be the LIFO, okay, or retail. And I'll talk about lower of cost of market and how to calculate that in just a little bit. But in either case, we think we're going to have a loss, we're going to book that now. That's what lower of cost or market is all about. It's all the matter of how you're going to define market value, okay? We'll get to that in just a little bit. If you think you're having a loss, we're going to book that loss immediately. The question is, where do we recognize the loss? Well, maybe just increase cost of goods sold, right? Maybe you'll just increase the cost of goods sold, but you may have to record the loss separately, independently if it's what? Material. If it's substantial and unusual, then it should get its own separate line item, okay? That loss should be separately reported. If it's relatively immaterial, then just increase your cost of goods sold. Okay, reversals not allowed under US GAAP. So my friends out there who are studying outside the US and you've learned IFRS, be careful. Big differences between US GAAP and IFRS. For my US students, good news, we don't test IFRS anymore. We've given up on convergence here in the US. So anybody who's learned IFRS, and that's kind of what you learned in school, be careful. US GAAP, very different. Most of the time when you write stuff down, reversals are generally not allowed under US GAAP, whereas under IFRS, they generally are, not US GAAP. Alrighty, when are we going to apply lower of cost or net realizable value? FIFO or weighted average. When you see lower of cost or net realizable value, you think FIFO, weighted average. Okay, now, step number one is going to be to calculate net realizable value. So how do we calculate net realizable value? Again, just like we did with the precious metals and the farm products, selling price minus your cost to sell it. You may have to hire a broker to help you find a buyer, whatever, okay? Pay a commission, I don't know, but selling price minus cost to sell. So look at our example. Step number one, okay, I want to know, what do they want me to record? As soon as I see it's FIFO or weighted average, I think lower of cost or net realizable value. And then I think, okay, let me calculate step one, net realizable value. So for item one, I take my selling price, 30 minus my cost to sell, I get 27. For item number two, I take my selling price, 26, minus my cost to sell, 4, 22. Step number one, I have my net realizable value. Step number two, we go, to like grammar school and we do, well, what's the lower, cost or net realizable value? So obviously for item number one, I've circled the 27, because the net realizable value is lower than the cost of $28.50. For item number two, I've circled the cost of 21 because that's lower than the net realizable value of 22. So lower of cost or net realizable value, FIFO or weighted average. For my international students, that's what you learned under IFRS. Remember, LIFO is generally something you only see in the US, right? So you all have learned abroad, lower of cost or net realizable value. You should be very familiar with that. What's less familiar for the international students is the concept of lower of cost or market, where market is really a middle value, which I'll talk more about in a second. You are going to use lower of cost or market anytime it's LIFO or retail inventory method. If it's LIFO or retail inventory, you think of lower of cost or market, which is really lower of cost or middle value. So the first thing we want to do is calculate, well, what's this middle value? You've got to choose between replacement cost or the market ceiling. Market ceiling is really your net realizable value, selling price minus your cost to sell, or the market floor, which is your net realizable value minus your normal profit. Now, this looks harder than it is. Just look step by step. You see LIFO or retail inventory, you think lower of cost or middle value. So replacement cost is your cost to purchase the item as of the valuation date. Okay, so that's what replacement cost is. Now look, this looks harder than it is. Just take it step by step. If you see LIFO or retail inventory, you think lower of cost or middle value. Okay, and the market is the middle of these three values. Replacement, not your original cost, but today's replacement cost. Or go to step number one. Replacement cost is your cost to purchase the item as of the valuation date. That's your ceiling. Step number two, then calculate your floor, which is your net realizable value minus your normal profit. What kind of profit do you normally make on this item? Now, you may have to back into that. You'll see variations on that. So you'll have replacement cost, your ceiling, which is your net realizable value, selling price minus cost to sell. Then you'll calculate your floor, which is your net realizable value minus a normal profit. Okay, step three is find the middle of those three values. The replacement cost, the net realizable value minus the cost, minus a normal profit. Then your last step is, okay, the lower of the original cost versus that middle value, which is the market. Easiest understood with an example, so let's do it. Okay, so I see LIFO or retail inventory. I immediately think lower of cost or market. I got to find my middle value, my market value. So they've given me replacement cost. That's one option. Now I've got to calculate net realizable value. So for each of those four items, take your selling price minus your cost of completion, your cost to sell. There's your net realizable value. So for item number 1, 25 minus 1, 24. Item number 2, 30 minus 2, 28. Item number 3, 15 minus 1, 14. Item number 4, 60 minus 6, 54. Step number 1 is complete. You've got your ceiling, your net realizable value. Now subtract from the net realizable value the normal profit you would make on that item. Okay, now they might give you this as a percentage of the selling price. I don't know. Here we've given it to you as a dollar amount. If we don't give it to you as a dollar amount, they'll tell you the normal profit is a certain percentage of the selling price. Okay, but here we gave it to you as a dollar amount. So for item number 1, 24 minus 6, 18. Item number 2, 28 minus 7, 21. Item number 3, 14 minus 3, 11. Item number 4, 54 minus 4, 50. So that's step 2. We now have our floor. Okay, step 3. The items that are in blue, okay? Let's choose the middle value. So for item number 1, what's the middle value? Well, we've got to choose between 19, 24, and 18. That would be 19. Item number 2, the middle value. We've got to choose between 20, 28, and 21, 21. Item number 3, we've got to find the middle value. 12, 14, or 11. That would be 12. Item number 4, we got to find the middle value, choosing between 55, 54, and 50. That would be 54. Step number 1, the net realizable value. Step number 2, the net realizable value minus the normal profit, your floor. Step number 3, I now found the middle of the three values, including replacement costs. Now I compare the middle value to the cost. Item number 1, what's lower? 19 or 20.5, 19. Item number 2, what's lower? 21 or 26, 21. Item number 3, what's lower? 12 or 12 or 10, that would be 10. Item number 4, we've got to choose 54 or 40. What's the lower of the two? That would be the 40. Alrighty. So now you got to do your journal entry. So we're probably going to debit loss for the decline in market value. You might be debiting cost of goods sold, but if it's material, if it's unusual, substantial, you'll just increase your cost of goods sold, credit your inventory. Otherwise, if it's substantial, separate line item, we'll debit the loss on the inventory, credit the inventory. Now, debiting the loss reduces your profit, which reduces your retained earnings, which reduces your equity. And then by crediting inventory, your assets have gone down, so your balance sheet is in balance. All right, not so bad. So you see LIFO or retail, you think lower of cost or middle value. The market is the middle value. Okay, so substantial unusual losses should be disclosed in the financial statement. So if it's substantial, unusual, separate measurement, okay? Let's make sure we highlight that item for the readers of the financial. If it's a relatively small loss, small decline in value, immaterial, then just increased cost of goods sold, as we mentioned. Remember, when you choose your inventory method, whether it's LIFO, FIFO, weighted average, whatever it is, we want you to be consistent in applying that. Why? So we can do trend analysis. You want to be able to compare the company to itself over time. So you should not just be arbitrarily changing methods to account for your inventory. Now, if there's a good reason for it, it's going to better present your information going forward, all right, then I could see you making a change. But generally, we want you to be consistent, and the method's got to be disclosed. Where do we disclose it? In the footnotes to the financial statements, okay? So for my international students, the LIFO is what you're probably not as used to. Make sure you focus in on that. All right, come back. Let's do another one, and then you can do some multiple choice. Let's go.